Welcome to the podcast, a living library where we have creative conversations. It's a journey involving discussions to process resiliency, an exchange of ideas and discovery, and also talks among friends to open ears and eyes. I'm your host, Rhiannon Barry, a visual artist, social worker, community-minded wellness program developer, and wellness retreat coordinator. I have several online mindfulness programs coming up that you can take part in for free. And I also have a few events coming up that are ticketed. And if you'd like to know more about those upcoming opportunities, you can visit my website, www.bwhimsyartloft.ca. And I'll add that to the description. The term retirement had meant something different to Tom than it had meant to many in the generation before him. No, he did not long for long days filled with relaxation, crossword puzzles, and planting marigolds. Instead, he sought new and interesting hobbies like novel and screenplay writing and taking art classes. Tom began drawing from a creative pool buried under years of hockey bags and grading matrices. And with a particular interest in the life of art masters and a keen eagerness to gain knowledge of art history, this creative is diving deeper into his new hobby. He is excited to explore unique ideas for wildlife portraits too. Now Tom creates detailed and moving images of people and pets. His piece, titled Resolve, is currently showing in the St.Catharines City Hall art exhibit. His transition from coach and teacher to artist has been swift and successful. He is now venturing into commission work and new opportunities to exhibit. You can find his prints on Etsy. What does that one in particular mean to you?
Well, in the class that I was taking, art class at Brook Colburn Art Club, we had our instructor, Chris Summerhays, he had suggested that we look at some pictures of homeless individuals. He had some pictures that he had shown us, and I did one of an older gentleman, kind of looking, his eyes closed. It looked very sad. And then the one that I did for my project in that particular session was of a girl who looked like she was an addict. She had sores on her face, but she was very pretty. And I was quite, it was an interesting photograph. So I drew that. And then after the class had stopped early because of COVID, so I just kind of thought I'll pursue a few others, and I did some other illustrations. And that was one that I did on canvas, stretch canvas, and I really liked the way it turned out. I liked the values of it, the darker values. And the reason that I submitted it was because of the look in his eyes. And I kind of thought, when I saw the art of resilience, I thought that this particular individual had a look that, even though he might be sort of homeless or destitute, in his eyes as a younger fella, you could see a resolve that he was going to sort of overcome whatever situations that he found himself in. And so that's why I submitted that one. I also had submitted one of a nurse that I had originally drawn in graphite on paper, and I kind of liked the way that turned out. So I tried it on canvas, and I color with pan pastel. So I did that one, my first sort of pan pastel on canvas, and I submitted that thinking, I called it COVID Hero, and I said, under the circumstances, she's she's a nurse putting on her rubber gloves with her mask on, but in her eyes, you could see she's tired, she's fatigued, but there's a sense that, the job must go on. She's got a lot of things that she has to do, people she has to help. So I submitted that one as well. But it was the resolve one that they accepted.
Yeah, that's interesting. One of the comments when they put the call out on the culture community Facebook page, like downer comments, like, "Oh, just what we need, more paintings of people wearing masks and, nurses and stuff." And I just remember, like, I was just like, well, it's about resilience, so it could be about anything.
Right.
But I think it's interesting that they chose a portrait of a homeless man over what was happening all around us at the time, which was a COVID-related picture of a nurse.
Yeah, I've had, like I said, people have commented on the look in his eye, and that's kind of
what got them.
What I liked about it particularly.
Yeah. It's more powerful than photography, I feel. It's more intimate. You're taking so much time, like looking at every crevice, every freckle, every, and then...
In particular faces, he's not, symmetrical. A lot of times you look at beautiful people and everything is symmetrical on both sides, and he's got some issues with his nose and whatnot. So it's just, to me, it was real, more realistic.
Yeah, for sure.
And, an interesting sort of follow-up is I'm involved with Southridge Community Church, and they've got a homeless shelter there. And I was speaking with one of the pastors, Chris Fowler. They had a fella who's part of the homeless shelter for a while, who was kind of a folk hero around there because he'd been there, but he was a very outgoing fella. He was in a wheelchair, but he passed away fairly recently. And I was talking to Chris about potentially doing a portrait of him just to hang up as a sort of sense of inspiration for other members of.
That's a very fitting piece to hang in there, right? If you're going to put art.
Right. We haven't come through with sort of a particular, situation yet, but we're still working on that.
Those types of ideas, they come together somehow.
Yeah.
You have these ideas of, I'd really like to do this type of, public art piece. And then years later, it's like, oh my goodness, I remember talking about this like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it can take time, but these ideas.
This whole art thing is very new to me. So I've only been doing this last year. And, as a result, it's, just some of the sort of awareness that other people have of what I'm doing is very, very new, kind of unique. And
you said you were a school teacher, you were an athlete, and that's what most people kind of knew you as, a coach. And, maybe tell me what's been like the reaction to your art from people who are closest to you, maybe people you worked with.
It's been really positive, actually. One of the things that's sort of evolved is I've been doing a lot of pet portraits. I did a few, I did some animals early, and then I started doing some pet drawings, and then people had said, I've got a friend who lost a pet. I'd like to give it to him as a gift, or, I did one of a baby sitting on a rock with a couple of dogs that my massage therapist was going to give to a brother, et cetera, et cetera. So the more of those I do, the more that people see, and then they kind of come up and say, they'd like something. Now at Christmas, I've got a few that I'm working on. And I kind of go through, the pet thing has been a constant, but otherwise from an interest standpoint, I kind of go through various phases. Like I did a celebrity portraits for a bit, just because I was working on the portraiture aspect of the drawing. And now I'm kind of into wild animals. There's a fellow, I don't know if you know Ed Spira in Niagara on the Lake. Are you familiar with him?
Say, can you say his name again?
Ed Spira. He's got a gallery in Niagara on the Lake.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, he's a wildlife artist and painter and artist, but he does both graphite and paint. And I really like the images that he's got of sort of close up animals. So I've started doing a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, some of the more micro, like the more detailed work.
Yeah, up close. I just like the eyes and some of the facial animals, and people as well.
like even somebody who's been in there for years, we all still struggle with like how to price our art and, where are we getting the next job or to make these types of decisions. So, I talk to a lot of new artists and I talk to a lot of professional artists who have been in the game for a long time. So like, how do you price your art?
Well, I've kind of, typically I like to do 9 by 12. And what I've recently started is, I started on paper, and then I tried the canvas, the stretch canvas. Pencil was going through that. So I tried canvas panel and I really like the look of that. So that's kind of what I'm leaning to now, but so it's basically 9 by 12. If it's just graphite, kind of in the $100 range, and if I add color to that with the pan pastel, it takes me a little longer, so about 120. But I like to give them frames. I matted and framed. I bought some that I have here stock, so I frame them and mat them and give them that one. Yeah,
and of course, framing costs a pretty penny sometimes too, so it's better to do it yourself.
Right. It's framed that I think makes the art look good, and it's immediate for putting up or hanging or whatever. But if people want to choose to hang it a different way, that's up to them afterwards.
Yeah,
but I buy from Amazon and I try to buy it in a bulk, so get a bit of a break.
Yeah, that's a good tip. And then as well, you do prints. You sell them on Etsy.
Yeah, I do. Just very few. Most of the stuff that I sell is the sport images. I do some vintage sports images, and those are the ones that I like to hang on to the originals of those. But I do sell prints of those.
Okay, that's good too. And see, you already passed half the battle. You set up an online store. You're getting commissions, and to think this all like came about during COVID, like it's impressive. Well,
the nice thing about the COVID was it gave me the opportunity to do lots of practice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that whole 10,000. And not that I've been anywhere close to that yet, but the more you do, the better you get. And I did a lot through COVID. So
that's 100% true. Yeah. And you're also working on some other creative endeavors, a screenplay and a novel?
Well, those are things that I started prior to the drawing. When I retired, I was looking for things to do, and I've always been kind of interested. I like to read. I'm kind of interested in trying to do some writing. So I first started a novel, and that didn't get me too far. It was sort of political based on a lot of the stuff that was happening in the States. And then I read this great book on an actual person who was a spy in World War II, an English fellow, and he had quite a story. So I thought that would make an interesting movie. So I started as a screenplay, and I'm kind of well into that. But once the drawing started, I tend to spend more of my time doing that right now. Put it on the shelf for maybe later.
Yeah. Creativity, if you have many creative outlets, it all comes in ebbs and flows.
Yeah, right.
I also write, but I favor painting. I put way more time into painting than writing, but I wish I had more time to write. One day.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of those forms, is you can really do them whenever you set your mind to it. Right?
Yeah, usually it starts on vacation.
Yeah. Well, again, it's that inspiration whenever you feel like it's the time.
Mm-hmm. So I find it interesting with all these like creative outlets of yours, and then on top of it, even like woodworking. You had built a canoe in the past.
I had, yeah.
But when I asked in the preliminary questions if you considered yourself a creative, you kind of said like, I don't really. I'm more technical and interpretive and a bit of a perfectionist, so that's why I sketch and draw. But you think you're a creative, out of the box thinker. So I would have to say you have a lot of creative outlets.
Well, I mean, creative is what you sort of make, right? And an interesting phrase that I came across, and I can't remember where I came across it, but when I first retired and seeing what other people do in terms of retirement is, they just sort of sit and consume, whether it's sitting, like my dad, when he retired, basically sits and watches a lot of TV and sports and sits in the backyard and watches his gardens grow and whatnot. And the phrase was, be a producer, not a consumer. So that's where in retirement, when you don't have your job to go to that you did for 30 years, I was looking for things to do to produce. So production involves creativity, I guess, to some extent, right?
Yeah.
What to do it, how to do it. But I mean, the woodwork, see, anything that I've really done, like the woodwork or even the drawing or even the book, I need to take something that I see and interpret it myself. You know what I mean?
Right. It's not just coming out of your head, out of your imagination.
Exactly. That's what I've always perceived creativity to be.
Oh, okay.
Kind of totally make up. Not that I mean, the novel part was creative in that respect. I was making it up as I went along, but the screenplay was based on a book, and anything that I've made, the canoe or I've done an armoire and whatnot, I do them based on something that I see, right? And then interpreting it in terms of the technical aspects of measurement and cutting and putting it together and making it look like it's supposed to look like. Or same thing with drawing. I need to see the drawing. I can't do it off the top of my head.
If I gave you like a really like a large like 8x10 canvas, like 8 foot by 10 foot canvas, and said, okay, make me something abstract, would that just be like?
I'll tell you what's interesting about that comment is I'm watching. Have you ever seen the series Geniuses?
No, but I heard about it, and I almost I was reading about it actually.
Yeah, so it's on. I think it's on Disney Plus, which we as a family kind of share. And it's 3 seasons. First season was Einstein. Second season Picasso, and third is Aretha Franklin. And I'm watching the Picasso series, and kind of most of the way through that. And I've got this strong urge to try painting again. The reason I do the drawing is because I like to be able to erase and correct and fix, as I go.
Yeah.
When I tried some painting, and the idea that you sort of have to wait for it to dry and paint over and this and that, and working with the wet medium didn't really appeal to me. But the more I watch Picasso, and I'm thinking just to put on canvas kind of something that comes out of my head is now starting to appeal to me a little bit.
That's awesome.
So I've got some, canvases much smaller than that, what you're suggesting. But
yeah.
I don't know what that would look like. I mean, I really like the outdoors. I've got a person who actually directed me towards this art club and taking these classes, which really kind of kick-started this whole drawing thing. Her and her husband have a cottage up north, and she does a lot of landscapes, pictures she takes of up there, and I've always liked that, but I'm not partial to landscapes as far as painting. Yeah. I did try a little bit of that. But something along those lines might be an interesting idea.
I'm almost repelled by precision in my art. And when I sit down, I make clouds that are pink, and I'll change, the color of something completely. So for me,
Picasso would like you, because that was his whole thing, is to break convention, right?
Yeah. So for me, it's all I call them dreamscapes instead of landscape.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. For me, it's I just don't like to be conformed. This is exactly how you have to do it, because then I feel like my art looks like everybody else's. Mm-hmm. Or not even that, just so many different layers in there. But yeah, for me, I'm almost repelled by it. But I don't love abstract art. Mm-hmm. Like a Pollock, I'm yeah, come on.
yeah,
that's, okay, yeah, it's art. But I mean, come on. The skill involved is a little bit different, right? Mm-hmm. So I appreciate skill, and I appreciate other people's skills, but for me, it drives me nuts. I couldn't sit there with an eraser.
Oh, here's the thing about it. I don't know. Do you draw at all?
Not really. I like to smear paint around. Okay.
The eraser is kind of like another implement for drawing, because sometimes you need it to sort of, if you're doing white hair, you need the eraser to take away some of the graphite, show up. So to me, it's an implement. And
yeah,
by erase, I don't necessarily mean erase the whole thing.
In smudge or things like that too.
Yeah. I've now taken sort of 4 classes with Chris, our instructor, and obviously people that are coming into the classes are beginners, and then they look to see sort of what I do, and they say, "Oh boy," and I say, "Well, yeah, but you know what? I've been doing this now because I've been working on it." But it's interesting to see how everyone's got a different style, and what I like about going there is because the 3 hours you're sort of talking about the art, and you're coming up with, people are giving you suggestions or ideas on how to, how to interpret something maybe a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that aspect of it. So it's just what I've kind of noticed with different people that come in, especially people who begin, and then they see them do a couple of drawings. There's style. Everyone's got style, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Everybody's is a little bit different. There's like, it feels like some styles are mass produced, but I think that might have something to do with like schooling. I don't know.
Yeah.
So do you own any art?
Well, I can't say, like, you know, from a collector's point of view. My wife has a piece that she bought recently, that's an original, but everything else I like a lot of Robert Bateman stuff. Again, getting back to that natural, you know, environment, and I guess realism is sort of more my thing. But my son's got a few pieces that are a little more modern in look, and I do like, you know, color combinations and things like that. But we don't really purchase a lot more of art.
Well, maybe one day when things get more back to normal, I guess is the word, and you have enough pieces that you want to come out and do an art fair. That's what really got me going, because like I'd see everybody else's stuff, right, and then I'd always walk out with a piece.
I mean, we had a little sale last, was it? I guess just before in the fall, and you know, I only sold one piece, but the idea of just taking part in something like that and having an opportunity to talk to different people about what they see in your work, and you to go around and see what other people have done.
Yeah, it's instrumental in meeting people, and also feedback is important. That's
one of the reasons why I was really it was unfortunate that we had to do virtual, because I was really looking forward to meeting, you know, all the other artists and kind of taking a walk around the gallery there and looking at all the different pieces and talking to some of the people who produced it. You know, it was unfortunate that it was all done the way it was virtually.
Yeah, so I'm part of a group in Niagara Falls, and I think anybody from the region can join, but it's the Queen Street Artists Group, and they have like, I think over 40 artists involved now, and they're in the hub, but I think they're going to move out of the hub for the winter because it's a warming place. But in the off season, it's a gallery, and they've thrown a couple different like in-person opportunities where they'll give you a table for free. And I went out and I painted live during it.
Oh, wow.
So I was inside, and they only had a certain amount of people that were allowed in, of course, at a time. Mm-hmm. But there were quite a few of us that went out, and some people had their little vendor booth set up. So it's like a collective, I guess.
I'm really interested in pursuing this avenue of things, you know. So I am looking for opportunities like that. I've come across a few things. There was one that was 12 by 12, you know, little art just contest or something in the original, but I wasn't used to drawing on 12 by 12, so I tried a piece that I just wasn't happy with the way it turned out, so I didn't send it in. But I'm looking for things like that.
I think the NAC is doing that soon. The Niagara Artist Center in St. Catharines, they have a 1 foot by 1 foot show every year.
Okay.
Last year I entered 3 pieces and 1 sold, and then you can say whether you want to give all like 100% to their cause or 50%.
Right. Okay.
So it's good for artists. Yeah, I know when you're first starting out, you question a lot, right? And you have to practice a lot to get it to look how you want it. Like if you're presenting your work, it's a very intimate thing. Like you're presenting your work, you're exposing yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes on a grand scale, right?
Well, the ones that I had displayed for that particular show that we had at the club was the portrait stuff that I did. And I got very positive feedback, because the reason I did is celebrity portraits that everyone could recognize who they are, right? So
so there's attachments there.
They know what they're supposed to look like, and if, you know, my images.
It's a great way to like gauge your talent.
Yeah. So things like that.
Yeah, and I have a friend too who does celebrity portraits with coffee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they're really.
I've seen like out of beans. They do them with the beans.
Oh, I don't. She's done so many. She's done a Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, I've seen some portraits that are done with coffee beans and with stones or pebbles.
Oh no, actually like doing them with the coffee. So painting as if it's watercolor paint.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And I've seen wine like that too.
Oh, okay. And what, they paint on canvas?
I think watercolor paper.
Watercolor. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. They're really cool though. She's done a ton.
That's creativity right there. So you try different mediums and different, things to paint with. It's interesting.
Yeah. So how do you research for if somebody, do you just get a picture of their pet and?
Yeah. People usually send me a few pictures of what they'd like, and then I just sort of blow up to the perspective that's going to give me the best, what I feel is the best image, and then draw it.
Okay.
I was drawing one that, one of the things that I do on the side other than draw right now in my retirement is I drive Uber, and if you have some interesting conversations. And this one fellow is from San Diego. He was here for a conference in there on the lake, and from him, I gave him my card because he wanted me to take him to the Toronto airport. I think a couple of days later, and I said, sure, let's connect or whatever. And he's given me 3 commissions already. So I was working on the second of the 3, and the lady saw me drawing at Starbucks and came up and said, "Could you draw this?" and showed me a picture of a pet she was holding. Said,
oh, look at that's awesome.
How things kind of evolve,
And look at you, embracing sketching in a coffee shop.
Well, I do that when I'm driving Uber, and I just need a break, or I'll just turn the app off, or I'll leave it on. If I get a call, I'll leave. But usually I just... And
then you fit your drawing in between. That's awesome.
And the other thing is that we're currently under renovation, so my routine of drawing here has been upended a little bit as well.
Yeah, of course.
I enjoy drawing
out in the real world. And has any real life situations inspired you to sketch that you hadn't planned for or weren't commissioned for?
Well, no. The pandemic, that nurse that I first drew was because of the pandemic, because of what was going on. I was looking for images. And I'll be honest, I just get them off of Google Images or whatever, because I don't have the ability to sort of take photographs right now.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been able to go inside the hospital.
Yeah, so I found just an image of a nurse that I really liked, and I got some interesting feedback on that just because of the timing of it. I posted it on Facebook during the midst of the COVID, and I think a lot of people appreciate it. I said it was sort of a thank you to the community, the medical health community, for all that they've been doing. Yeah.
So during that time too, I was really considering the artist's role in society, because it just seemed so much more I guess just because of where I was and the angle I was looking at it from, but it just seemed like it was more prominent, and all of a sudden arts and culture meant so much more. And you were expressing people's feelings for them,
I agree. Well, you do it because you want to do it, but then you could see how other people appreciate it, and that, then their emotions are sort of expressed through what you've done, kind of thing.
Yeah. Even the piece I entered into the city show, I was very hesitant to enter it, but it's all about an artist going through COVID. There's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of imposter syndrome and anxiety. When you're an artist and you put yourself out there, you get a lot of no's. I know somebody who has a rule. They put out 1,000 applications a year.
Wow.
That's their goal, because they know only 10 of them might, stick. So my whole thing was to portray somebody who's a soldier. They've already been through this.
Right.
And they were there for the world. You had violins on the balconies in Italy, and Disney Plus crashing for Hamilton. And it just seemed like art and culture, people were just give me more for a while there.
Yeah.
They wanted to feel something. Yeah. So I wanted to portray that, and I almost didn't submit it because I thought it was a little too conceptual. But
Now, have you submitted in the past to this particular, like to the City Hall?
I did. Actually, last year I submitted a piece for Truth and Rec, and they used my piece in the promotions, which I was completely flattered, first off, to get in the show.
Yeah.
And then for that message to come through, I was like, are you kidding? Are you sure?
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So 2 years in a row, I'm completely like, I don't even know if I deserve that, but it's amazing to me. And I'm completely flattered. If I never get in ever again, I'm happy.
Well, you definitely deserve it because it is, by committee judges, right? So
Yeah.
obviously they select from a number. And I was shocked that I was picked, but I'm certainly happy to take it.
Not funny, eh? Everybody's like, I was shocked to get in. Yeah.
Well, again, it was more of a whim. I mean, I think that application had come through on a Facebook page, and I said, because of St. Catharines and resilience and all the rest, I said, sure, why not? I'll just put something in and see what happens.
Yeah.
Not expecting at all that they would have been kept, but certainly happy that it was.
Yep. Is there any time where like you've put something out and you've sort of been like anxious or embarrassed, as an artist?
No, not really. See, I mean, I'm not sure to what extent, you see your art as a vocation or, just more of an interest. But for me, it's right now it's a hobby, it's on the side. And what you said about the rejection of artists is true for any type of artist. I would imagine musicians and actors.
Oh, actors, yeah.
Everybody has to go through that sense of understanding rejection before the acceptances come. So I don't particularly. The acceptance was great, but if I was rejected, I don't think it would have bothered me quite as much.
Yeah.
At this point, and if I took it seriously, maybe it would. But so no, there's nothing that the feedback that I've been getting has been really positive for the most part.
That's good.
Yeah, there's a website or a group that I post to. I think it's graphic artists or something, drawing or something like that on Facebook, and occasionally I'll put something on that. But yeah, it's amazing to see the wide variety of abilities that people have, and everyone's got like different styles. And there's a few people I'm sure that are conning the group because they're sort of photographs that are either they're edited on a computer program or something. But,
yeah, you got to watch out for like these art pages because a lot of times they'll be like, I want to see your sketches of birds, and then everybody's just like, here's mine, here's mine, here's mine, here's mine. And I'm like, why are you doing that? Like that person is obviously gathering pictures for something.
Right.
But you just got to be careful out there.
Yeah. So again, it's all part of the experience, right? All part of.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But
it's good that you're part of a group because it's good that you're part of a group because you can get a little bit of peer mentorship there. Yeah.
Well, I look at more for ideas and sort of inspiration of what's the person doing that I might be interested in trying to try as well.
Yeah.
One thing I got a great lesson I got out of it was I saw a particular person posted a video who was drawing with a piece of acrylic, sort of to prevent their hands from smudging their work.
Yeah.
Like an acrylic circle, and so I started using that, and then I showed it to the members of the club, and everyone got excited about that. So these kind of things are nice to come across.
Yeah, the internet's great.
Yeah.
I get a lot of ideas from watching other people too, like their videos.
Yeah.
And I get inspired, I guess.
So your medium is primarily acrylic?
Yeah. And mine, like at first I wasn't creating to sell, I was just creating almost like a journal.
Mm-hmm.
And then people wanted to see it. So that's why it's a little bit more for me, maybe exposing when I put things out, because I'm just like, oh, and then especially the artist statement, like if they want to know what was behind this, sometimes I like just make stuff up. Because I'm like, I don't want.
Yeah, it's all coming out of your head though. You don't.
Yeah. Most of it.
I find that inspiring that people can do stuff like that out of their head. So.
Yeah, well, I enjoy that.
To try more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun just to throw paint on a canvas. And like sometimes too, you just throw it on there and then you stand back and let it dry and you look at it, and you come back and it's like, okay, I see this now.
Yeah.
So it tells you what to paint almost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when there's no planning.
Well,
Okay.
I'm going to give that a shot.
Yeah, good. Yeah, go for it. What's your dream project?
Can't say I have anything like that right now, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, for now, I really like the idea of sort of this animals, like trying to draw animals and various, again, the close stuff primarily.
Yeah.
I don't like drawing a lot of background. That's another reason why I like the close stuff. I just like focusing on the face. But trying to maybe do things on a bigger scale. The reason I do 9x12 is the panels fit into my bag very nicely, and I can carry my bag around. So
That's convenient.
I don't have to have anything that's much bigger that I can carry. So, and all I need is a table, and I can do it, which is really nice. But I'd like to maybe try things on a bit of a bigger scale, and I'd like to learn a little more about pastel. I use a pan pastel with a brush. I like to do the whole image first in graphite. I draw the entire picture the way I would if it was just a graphite on the drawing. And then the pastel on top gives me the values. So, various values without having to worry about mixing the colors so much. And I've been working on that as a sort of a technique, but I'm not sure if I'm going to move into the paint at all. I'd like to. People tell me that if you can draw, you can paint.
Yeah, just start small. That's all. Just like you do with the sketching. Just start small and build up.
Mm-hmm.
I love painting so much that sometimes I'll start writing and I'll get carried away and I'm like, I want to be a writer. You know what I mean? It's like, so you get into that, or like crafting sometimes. And then, painting always pulls me back. So wherever you'll balance back out if you start venturing into painting, and sketching's right for you more.
Right. Now, you said you were taking classes as well. You had an exam?
Yeah, I'm taking.
Are you at the Brock?
No, I was online with Athabasca University.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I started my post-secondary academic career in journalism, print, and photography. And then over the years, I really got into hospitality, special events. And then on the other side of that, I ended up in social work, doing a lot of like community coordination and fundraising and events. And then just like I took a break, sort of like reconfigure what I wanted to do. And then I went into psychology.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm just upgrading.
Sort of your podcast has a strong mental health component to it, from what I could tell.
Yeah, for sure. The original Living Library was really to show the resilience of strong women and share their stories. And now it's just opened up to, let's share. If you have a story that could inspire somebody else, then it's relevant to me. Mm-hmm. And also I'm a creative, so I just wanted to combine my two interests. Yeah.
Well, I think podcast is an excellent way to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people can talk freely, right? And also, I want your opinion as well on this. What role, do you think artists play in society now? Because, I think that we have a big role in correcting misinformation, sort of propaganda and reducing fear even. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a combination of inspiration, like it can be used to inspire, interpret, present alternatives that people might not have otherwise, or pursue on their own otherwise. It's definitely important, and I got a sense of that when education was talking about cutbacks and kind of moving more to the 3 R's and away from, maybe cutting programs like what I was in, physical education and the arts. And, I really come to realize that it's so counterproductive, because the physical education is sort of body awareness, and that's really important for people to have. And you can see how kids that don't have it when they're young, how it can affect them as they get older. But the arts is similar, like I tried a little bit of music, picked up a guitar years ago and tried to play a little bit, and it's really good, but it's not my thing. And I admire people that have those abilities, and it's something that people need. And for a lot of people, it's important. Like I know music is really important to some. Art is really important to others. I'm a visual person, so that's why visual art is more my bag. But I think it's definitely in society it's an important thing. It'd be far less rich environment if the arts didn't exist.
I just feel like a lot, like even like recently, over the last 5 years, I've been, stepping out of, art as a hobby to art as maybe this is a way I can make some money. When I'm approached with an opportunity or presented with an opportunity, a lot of the times the artist isn't paid, but the admin is paid. Wow. The people who set up the event are paid. Right. A lot of times are just like projects. Like if you come, we'll give you exposure. And I'm like, okay, but what am I supposed to put this exposure? Of course you have to hustle as an artist and make connections and network and put yourself out there and create your own opportunities. But a lot of times just like, I don't know. I read this book called Real Artists Don't Starve and I loved it. Yeah, it's so good. Put it in perspective, the myth of the starving artist and how like a lot of these guys who we thought were poor and struggling actually weren't, in history and things like that. But I think it's just like this view of artists in society is just wrong. And a lot of the time. And so then art is sort of discounted.
Well, for a lot of people, they're not going to try to change their impression of what an artist is. It's just not a priority for them, like it's not important. So I think once something affects a person, then they take note of it more. So
sure.
If art can be out there and inspire somebody by what they see, I always found it interesting that people can get very emotional about particular things, and I don't find that myself, but if someone can see something, and it evokes tons of emotion, I find that inspirational, but it's just, I have a hard time relating to it because I don't see things, I think it just speaks more about who I am in terms of whether it's music or whether it's...
Yeah. Well, yeah, music makes people cry.
Yeah, it does.
Makes them fall in love too.
Yeah. I think that's what the benefit of our is in society, right? It does that for a lot of people.
It's what separates us from. Yeah, I was going to say it's what separates us from the animals.
Yeah, well, it does. They don't have the ability to create like the way people do. But if you didn't have some of that, this is an interesting thing about where I am right now in this phase of my life, because I'm much more interested in seeing things about other artists. I mean, did you ever see the movie The Girl in the Pearl Earring?
Oh yeah, one of my favorites.
Yeah, fantastic movie. But I probably wouldn't have watched it had I not been doing what I was doing now.
For sure.
So back in the day when I was more into sports, I'd be, and I still am. I mean, I still watch games on TV or whatnot, but that is not the price. Doesn't hold the priority that it once did, because now I like to be more inspired by what other people have done and to see the journeys and to see what pathway people have taken.
Or at least what we know or what historians can figure out, right?
For sure, yeah.
Have you seen the Van Gogh movie? Where it's well, isn't that amazing how they did that?
That was really good. I think we saw that actually we saw it at the downtown St. Catharines there.
The Pack, yeah.
Yeah, that was fascinating. That was really interesting.
Yeah, I went with a friend to see the immersive one in Toronto.
My friends of mine saw that too. Yeah. How'd you like it?
I just sat there and was like, oh my God. The thing is, it's the music too. It's like booming, right? and everything is so coming and going. It's a whole immersive experience, but it did make me, I already immensely appreciate but it made me appreciate it even more.
Interesting. No, that wasn't the same movie with more immersive experience.
It was a projection show on floors, ceilings, and walls.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. So you could sit down on a pillow and just watch it like go by. So the whole show, I think it was about maybe 40 minutes long, and then it looped.
What I find interesting is what we know, as you say, what we know of the history of the artist, but these people that are the real sort of creators that change the way art is seen and, the direction of where things kind of go in art, I find fascinating. And a lot of it's just what goes through their head. And to some extent, Einstein's the same, right? Like how you can come up with these ideas that just,
good. He just minimized everything to this is it. This is what we're dealing with.
But Van Gogh and his sort of madness, with these just brilliant techniques for exhibiting, and the way the color just jumps off the page.
I just think Impressionism is incredibly interesting as well, because everything was this was the zeitgeist of the time. Everything was perfect and realistic and softened and, very religious. And then along comes somebody who does a half painting.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, break convention. Yeah, a lot of that was Picasso for sure.
Yeah, very interesting to learn about art history, and you're learning it after a whole career.
Well, that's the thing. I like to pursue that a little bit more. The history of where things come from, and sort of how art progressed over time. I just find it very interesting.
For sure, yeah, it's very interesting. Like archaeology too, the art of ancient people. Very interesting.
Yeah, I've always been interested in that. Just watching History Channel is one of my favorites. Those kind of programs on the way things are. I think it's a theme for me. I think is the retro. I prefer to watch movies of a particular past era. Not so much of what's happening now. What's happening now is too much.
Yeah, there's a lot of
guns and killing and whatnot. I like just good stories of the past, or
just as long as it's not about ancient warlords, because that stuff's pretty gruesome.
Right, exactly.
One a really semi-modern documentary I watched that I really liked, and I wish I could remember the name, but it was on the graffiti that came out of the inner cities that was on the trains, and then how that culture evolved into the art it is today. Mm-hmm. That was really interesting.
Okay.
A more modern one.
Banksy one. Banksy, I like.
Yeah. He's interesting, that guy, yeah. Brave.
For sure.
All right. I kind of prepared a fun little list here or a game that I wanted to do with you today. So it's about athletes who are also accomplished artists. And seeing that you were big into athletics, I thought this would be a fitting little quiz to see if you knew who these people might be.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Are you ready for the first clue?
Sure.
Okay. So this is a famous female tennis player who in 2013 debuted her Expressions series of paintings. Do you know who that might be?
I don't know who it is. I'll take a guess and say Navratilova.
No, it's Miss Serena.
Serena? Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Never would have thought
that. Fastest man alive who also has two artistic hobbies, dancing and photography.
Wow. Carl Lewis?
Nope.
Donovan Bailey?
No, good guess though.
Okay, then is it Usain Bolt?
It is.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah, dancing and photography. That guy, he brings his camera right out there on the track sometimes.
Does it? Interesting. Okay. No, I didn't know that. I'd like to see him dance. That'd be interesting. Long arms and legs.
Yeah, I think he might have been on Dancing with the Stars.
Really?
I think he might have been. I don't know, though. Okay, so this next one is a United States basketball shooting guard for the Supersonics and Milwaukee Bucks, who also is into painting and ceramics. Do you know basketball?
Yeah. Well, Supersonics haven't been around for a long time. That's got to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. No, he didn't play for the Supers. He played for the Bucks. No, Gary Payton is the other one that comes to mind.
No.
Who would it be?
Desmond Mason.
Okay, don't know.
What about this one? Famous, now tragically deceased basketball player who announced his retirement in prose.
I'm thinking Kobe Bryant.
That's him.
Yeah.
He was a talented rapper, apparently.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't be surprised about that. Tragic that he's passed.
Yeah, I know. Incredible athlete.
Yeah, I did a picture of him that my son has, actually.
Mm. Okay, so this is a baseball player, famous MLB player who collaborated with Bruce Springsteen and John Cicada and is a classically trained guitarist.
Okay, I think I know this, but I can't remember. I'm trying to think of his name. There was a guy that I know played guitar for Chicago. I'm going to throw out the name Randy Johnson. It's not the guy I'm thinking of.
No, not Randy.
Does it begin with Jack? Is it Jack, his first name?
It begins with a B.
Okay, I don't know.
Bernie Williams.
Bernie Williams. Okay, no, I didn't know that. I know there's a pitcher. There's a pitcher who was quite an accomplished guitarist, and he did. I think he might have made an album or two.
Yeah, there were a lot of runners and bicyclists too, but I didn't recognize the names. But I have two more. This one's interesting.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it just shows you that how uncommon it is for those two things to come together in mainstream. Like, I mean, I follow sports quite a bit, but I didn't know that about Serena or Usain Bolt. I mean, those aspects of their lives don't often come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I think
to me that art and athletics tend to be very divergent. There was one kid that I coached through high school who was he was in the band, and very few kids that I have had experience with were actually, both athletes and in the band. That was something that wasn't that common. Same thing with maybe a few more would have been in the school plays, but even the dramatic art with athletics is not always that common.
Yeah, it's true. I think for one thing, people put labels on people and put them inside of boxes for their own ability to make sense of things. But also it's funny how if you're going to cut something, you're cutting arts, but a lot of the times a lot of money goes to athletics, right?
That's true. Particularly in the States. But
yeah, in the States for sure, yeah. But isn't it interesting, right? I thought they were interesting. This one's really interesting to me. So a vocalist who released several albums between 2006 and 2013, who's also a Filipino boxer and politician.
Oh. Filipino boxer, politician.
Yeah, and he won several titles in several weight classes.
Okay.
I mean, to be a boxer itself, that takes so much time.
I know the guy. Okay. My problem is remembering the name now.
Starts with M.
Manny Pacquiao?
That's him, yeah.
Yeah.
Several albums.
Okay. See, I knew he was a boxer. I knew he was a politician. What was the other one? He was a vocal artist?
A vocalist, yeah. Several albums between 2006 and 2013.
Wow.
Yeah, and then
that's a Renaissance guy right there.
Yeah, amazing. And then this is the last one. An NFL player who was also a painter He lived between 1938 and 2009. He designed album covers for Marvin Gaye and B.B. King.
He lived between 38 and
2009, NFL.
Yeah, I don't know if this guy's still living or not. He's an actor too. Jim Brown?
No, this guy's not living anymore.
Okay.
Died in 2009.
NFL. It doesn't come to mind.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guys in the NFL, right? Ernie Barnes.
Okay, no, I don't even know that name.
No.
Football player, but I don't know Ernie Barnes.
Yeah, so apparently this guy designed albums for some pretty big artists.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's the end of my list there.
That's a very interesting. I don't know how many people would get too many of those, just because it's not common knowledge that a lot of these famous people in one area are also accomplished in another.
Mm-hmm. There were a ton too. There were just like so many examples when I was looking it up. I did a couple keyword searches. I was quite impressed by the number of, like I was saying, like runners. Yeah.
Interesting.
So maybe there's a connection there between sports and creativity that hasn't been explored enough.
You know what? That would probably make for a good thesis somewhere.
Yeah, maybe one day, right?
Yeah, that was a good thesis. Pursue that. See if there's any connection.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they both take up a lot of time, right?
That's true. Maybe I could see people like sort of like I did in retirement. After you have a career in one area and you look for something different in another, I can see that kind of switch happening. But it's difficult to, unless people do it as a relaxation, like a guy like Usain Bolt. I can see, needing to relax from the rigors of a running career and maybe doing other things. But
also, maybe he uses dance as like in his regiment of exercise.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, between balance and stretching and whatnot, for sure.
Yeah, because dancers are among the best athletes in the world. So are boxers, right? Boxers and not dancers.
I in high school used to take the kinesiology course, and a lot of the girls that would take it, I always made sure that people realized that dance was just as much of any other, because a lot of times it'd be athletes that would take the course, but I, I've always said dancers are just as much or more so athletic than a lot of other sports.
Yeah.
To recognize that.
Yeah, and maybe it's also about freedom of expression for athletics, because you have to be in a routine if you're going to be the best of the best, right? You have to eat certain things, you have to sleep at a certain time, you need to practice a certain amount, and then maybe just a creative outlet is the counterbalance.
Interesting. Again, that would make a great thesis for somebody at university.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I totally think you need to crack out some paint. Sounds like you need to crack out some paint.
I think it's going to happen in the next little while.
Well, send me a picture.
Closer toward that. I don't do that. Only if I like it.
Oh, okay. That's fair enough. All right, I just want to ask, what's the name of your Etsy shop?
T. Grantis Sketches, all one word. T-G-R-A-N-T-I-S and Sketches.
Okay.
I really appreciate this opportunity. This is unique for me, and again, it's all part of this new journey that I've been taking, and I'm thankful that you were interested in wanting to talk to me about it, but it's a great experience for me as well.
I'm glad to hear that, yeah. I really did want to reach out to everybody who was in that show, but it would have just, it's a lot of people that were involved. But yours definitely spoke to me, the portrait that you did. And I found it quite fascinating that you were just brand new and just starting to explore your artistic ability. So I definitely wanted to pick your brain a little bit and find out where this came from.
If you come across any of these, other endeavors or shows or things like that, feel free to pass them along.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, I will.